Phone's on mute.
What?
Phone's on mute. That's one too. Okay.
Hello.
Hello. I might have to get glasses soon.
I need new ones.
I'm having a hard time seeing this monitor.
Here, I've got cheaters in the bottom, and I have bifocals. Do you need to?
No. Not there quite yet.
How old are you?
38.
It's coming.
I lied when I was 14 because I hated how I looked. So I lied to go to the eye doctor and get glasses. I faked my reading test so I'd get glasses.
Gave you a headache like I don't know what, didn't it?
Yeah, I didn't cheat that bad. Just cheated a little bit.
Take the edge off.
Yeah.
It's around the corners. Is that on TikTok up there?
Yep. What's up, TikTok?
For everybody that's watching, Daniel's going to show us a new dance he learned on TikTok.
Yeah, but you got to wait until the last 30 seconds of the podcast in order to see it. So wait about an hour and then you'll see probably the world's greatest ever dance. You'll be able to see it right here after this podcast. But you got to stick around. All right. We're just waiting on him. Should I call him? There it is. Hello. Okay.
What's up, guys?
Hey, what's up?
And welcome back.
Welcome back.
How y'all doing?
Good. How are
Get a
you?
little more light in here.
Yeah.
I had a background I was working on, and for some reason now it doesn't work.
All right. All right. So we just recorded that. Let me go ahead. And so we don't do what happened last time. Let's good. How are you? Yeah.
I had a background I was working on.
Okay. Okay.
I do this one.
I like
Y'all
it.
see that one?
Kind of dark.
I'm kidding. It's
Oh,
it's a R2D2 behind me in an X-wing.
Dig it.
I'm just messing around. Does that look all right? Can y'all
Yeah,
see?
looks good to me. All right. Can you hear Drew?
Hey,
Yes.
Okay. All right. Let me hit record here. As soon as I hit record, we're going to do the intro, and we're going to do intro for 9 seconds,
okay.
and then we'll take it from there. You ready, Brad?
I'm ready.
All right. Recording.
All right, everybody, we're back. This is episode number 17.
17.
17. the Recovery Lab podcast series. I'm Drew Hassan.
I'm Daniel Anderson.
We're the Recovery Lab.
Yep.
So, departing from tradition, we're going to start off with, we have these fantastic hoodies that we're trying to sell that you can order from either Daniel or me on Facebook. Just send us a message. The proceeds go to support what we're doing here. We can't bring y'all bang up content without your help. So please check out the hoodies. I'm wearing one right now.
Yeah, they're pretty awesome.
They are pretty awesome. They're cozy, warm, fashionable. Like I said, if Kimberly Hassan thinks they're good looking, you know they are.
Absolutely.
To do.
All
All right. So without further ado, round two. Not everybody knows this, but we have recorded this podcast with Brad before, and we had a technical snafu,
A minor
a
glitch
minor glitch.
that deleted the whole thing.
It just
Whatever. It happens.
ones and zeros.
Yeah. This one's going to be even
corrupted.
better.
Yeah. Well, practice makes perfect.
Yeah, absolutely.
Brad, thank you so much, man. I
Yeah.
appreciate it, buddy.
Thank you.
No problem. Glad to be here.
Absolutely. Let's get started.
Yeah, knock it out.
All right.
man.
So for the listener and viewer, we are on TikTok right there. Hello, TikTok. Welcome. We did a test and 430 people joined in the test, and it was a 10-minute test. So hopefully we'll be able to reach a lot of folks and be able to normalize recovery with TikTok. So without further ado, Brad, thank you so much. And tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do, and a little bit about Clear Path and how you're changing the world.
Well, I don't know about changing the world, but we're surely trying to help as many families as we can along the way. I'm a person in long-term recovery myself, and I experienced a loved one that struggled with addiction after I'd been sober for over a decade. And I had another job and another career, and was pretty terrified at risking anything, but I had wanted to do interventions for a long time. And I just was too scared to risk it. But after going through that experience with my ex-wife, I took the leap. And the reason I took the leap is because whenever she started to struggle with a pretty severe opiate addiction, the thought I had was, who better to help manage this situation? Who better to help her try and navigate this and get back to a better place than somebody who's been in recovery for so long?
Right.
And I couldn't have botched it more than I did. And the reason for that is that when you love somebody, it doesn't really matter how much recovery you got. All bets are off. It doesn't matter if you're an addictionologist or a therapist that specializes in addiction. When it's your own family, it's almost impossible to be emotionally grounded and to handle a situation like that, like you would if it professionally, if it wasn't. So
Yeah, it's
after
almost like
going
you have
through all
blinders on.
Yeah. So after going through all that, I thought to myself, hey, here I am after this is over, and we'd split up, and I was trying to move on with my life, and I thought to myself, if I screwed it up with over a decade in recovery as bad as I did, what about the other families out there that don't have any knowledge around all this stuff? How ill-equipped are they? And so I sort of took a leap and started resigned from my old job and started talking to people in recovery. And I started working for treatment centers right off the bat, and found out really quickly within a year that was really not my passion. And when I made that leap and resigned from my job, the promise I made to myself was that I would do and find something that truly made me click and made me really want to get involved every day. And I thought maybe that was it. And it turned out it wasn't. I mean, I liked it a whole lot more than my old career, if I'm honest. But I wanted to work on the front line with the families and the clients that are out there struggling with mental health and substance use. And so I went and got trained as an interventionist the first time, and got hooked up with a company called Family First Intervention, and they do probably more interventions than any other company in the nation. And I worked as a contract interventionist for them in the beginning, and they sent me out 32 times in the first year.
Wow.
And so I gained a lot of experience really quickly that I never would have gotten on my own if I had just started the company and started marketing my own services. And so fortunately for me, as time went on, I got busy enough with my company where I wasn't able to do any work for Family First anymore. And so I ended up getting into a situation where I couldn't even do it on my own. And so I had to reach out for help. And now we've got 3 other interventionists that work for us and a director of services. And so we have a model that we use and a modality that we use that we are extremely proud of. It's 100% love and respect. It's not about shaming a person or telling them they've made poor decisions or that they're an alcoholic or a drug addict, or any of those things. We have found that love works and love always conquers. Now, it's a process. An intervention is a process. It's not an event. And what that means is that we are there to guide the families from the first phone call that they make to us when they're pretty much in crisis, all the way through the planning stages of the intervention, which, believe it or not, is 80% focused around the people connected to the person struggling, not the actual addict, through the intervention. And then, for as long as they need us afterwards. We have found that if we can help the family heal at the same time the facility they choose with our guidance is working on the loved one struggling, that everybody can get better. And that's what makes me click. That's what I found. And I didn't know that was going to be the case when I jumped in necessarily, but man, did it become that. And now I spend my days supporting family members and supporting the people that are really, if you think about it, you got a person that's struggling with addiction, and everybody's heard it's a family disease. Everybody's heard, right? But really break that down for a second. You can say that if there's a person struggling with addiction, there's at least 5 people around that person that are directly being affected by that cycle of addiction.
Right.
And so the biggest thing we found is that those are the people that have more impact in helping that person gain long-term recovery by learning and how to support their person in the right way moving forward, rather than continuing to react the way they have in the past. Make sense?
Yeah. So that's where Clear Path really shines, is educating individuals to help them deal with life with an addict or an alcoholic from the moment that you leave and get out of the picture. So it is absolutely, and it was with me as well. It was a family disease that affected everyone that was around me negatively. And, had my parents not had support, it would not have been pretty. And my parents go to a 12-step support group for family members that are, affected with alcoholism. Out of respect, I'm not going to say any names or anything, but a family-oriented 12-step program that's unbelievably helpful. So basically, you are on the front lines. You are coming in and you are helping these people understand that, hey, it's not necessarily anything they did wrong. Now, granted, trauma can cause issues, but that's a whole nother thing. You are wanting to take the place of somebody who has been through it. You're able to talk with these individuals and explain exactly what has gone on and how they're not at fault, but it is going to require work on their part in order for there to be success oftentimes with the loved one or individual affected with the alcohol or addiction. Is that correct?
Absolutely. Yeah. And the families have a whole lot more power than they think. There's no handbook for marriage or parenting, and sure as heck isn't one for this. I say that, at the same time, I have our manual that we actually use in the intervention process. And so what happens is they call in, we discuss the case, we decide if they want to build a team and a unified front to approach the loved one with respect and love. And then we'd have a conference call with the entire team, and we develop, we set up 2 days, and the first day is what we call the family day. That's just for the team. And we go through that material I just pulled up, and by the end of that day, everybody they see the problem differently than they have before. And they also see the solution differently than they have before. And it's a transformative process for everybody we work with. One of my guys is in New York right now, in Buffalo, doing one. And he said yesterday when it started, everybody was sort of, happy-go-lucky, trying to kind of be funny around the situation. And by the end of the day, everybody was crying because they realized that they had actually contributed to the cycle of addiction without meaning to.
Right.
And that's, again, like you said, not anybody's fault. It's not their fault.
I want to focus on one thing that you said a couple minutes ago, which was the families have power, and oftentimes in the grips of addiction, the family surrounding the addict or alcoholic can completely feel powerless and completely helpless and feel like there's literally nothing they can do. But what it sounds like, and what it's been in my experience, is if the family is unified, if there is someone that steps in and helps educate the family and unify the family, so it's a solid front that this addict is now going to, come up against, to, help with not enabling and things like that. Just get everybody on the same page. When everybody's on the same page, there's strength in numbers. Am I right?
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
that's
And
another.
you guys can probably both attest to the fact that, I know for me, everybody that cared about me in the last couple of years of my drinking and using drugs tried to sit me down individually and explain to me that I needed to do something different, that my life was going in the wrong direction. And I was able to manipulate my way out of those situations really easily, because those are manipulations that we learn in our addiction. And so when you create that unified front and everybody's on the same page and the person can no longer manipulate their way out, then you change the game, you change the landscape. And the truth is, the intervention is actually for the family. Treatment's for the client.
Right. Absolutely. So I think it's a great thing you're doing.
You mentioned earlier the modality that y'all employ at ClearPath. Did you mean that in like the hyper technical sense? Like, we subscribe to the Minnesota method of interventions as opposed to the Florida method.
Right. So what I've done is take everything I've learned from multiple intervention trainings and a couple hundred of interventions that I've done on my own, and sort of make a hybrid of it all, and kind of put in what we feel is effective and take out what we feel is not effective. There's different ways to do interventions. There's no doubt. Some people come in with letters that each family member is telling the person, how their addiction has affected them. And it shames the addict. And we feel that's absolutely the opposite of what we need to do. It's a really soft approach on the front end. And almost 90% of the time it works on the day of the intervention. But we do get more firm if we need to, but it's still firm in a very loving and respectful way. It's never to shame or make the person feel guilty or make them feel like they have to defend themselves. Because once you do that, you guys know, we're in recovery. We shut down.
Exactly.
We're not hearing a damn word you're saying.
Yeah, we put up that wall.
You make us feel that. Right. And so the object for us is to keep them from putting up that wall long enough for them to make an emotional decision based on the love and support that we're showing them. We're not looking for an addict in active addiction to make a logical decision. It's never going to happen.
Right.
Right. But we can pull and open their heart if we do it correctly. And we've dealt with some very difficult cases, and the family oftentimes thinks that this is never going to work, but we got to try something. Right. And then it works. Right. It just works.
Yeah. And a lot of times another thing, and I just keep going, like, this just keeps popping in my head, as to like a listener may be listening and thinking, well, my pastor could do this, or somebody that, as a family friend could do the same thing as an interventionist. Well, the difference between a family friend, a preacher, somebody that's, a trusted family member, is they don't have the hundreds of interventions under their belt like you do. They don't have necessarily the experience of all of these different scenarios and situations under their belt to be able to tap into in order to help other people. So just one more notch in why it's important and why it's a great thing to look into interventions, especially if you're at your wit's end. There is hope. There are trained professionals. For the listener, there are trained professionals out there that do this day in, day out. They eat, drink, and sleep addiction and recovery. And if you feel like you are at your absolute wit's end, don't give up. Don't give up on us. Don't give up. Please try something. You know, in Clear Path Interventions is absolutely going to be a great place to start. But there's any interventionist rather, that has experience is going to be much better suited to help you out than just a trusted family friend. So I don't know. I'm going on about that. I just felt real passionate about that real quick.
Yeah, and we talked about this last time, but since we're re-recording, I'll say it again. Addiction is the only disease on the planet where the patient fights to stay sick.
Right.
It's the only disease on the planet that tells us we don't have it. Right. And it's the only disease on the planet where family members tend to listen to their neighbor or their aunt or their best friend instead of listening to people that are professionals that do this for a living. It's weird. I don't understand it. It's always been that way, and it may always be that way.
Right.
But the reality is, if this was cancer and somebody was dealing with cancer, they would be at MD Anderson in Texas following every suggestion of that doctor. And I'm not saying I'm a doctor. I'm just saying I have a lot of experience, and my team has a lot of experience walking family members and their teams through this entire process, not just the intervention, but long afterwards to help them, create a long-term recovery plan.
Right.
That's part of our job as well. Part of our job is to help them navigate treatment,
right.
to help find the best spot.
And on top of that, you can tap into your personal experience as a person in recovery as well. That's something that a preacher or, family friend, your Aunt Nancy or whatever, is not gonna, always be, well qualified to help out on that, on that level, unless they've kind of walked through it, and you have.
Right.
Tell people about how what is the metric for success? Is it getting the person into treatment? Because I can see an argument for, well, look, it was successful. We got them into COPAC 2.0 or defining wellness or someplace. But I can also see, with your focus on educating the family as a unit, how success can be how they deal with the addict going forward. How do you?
Right. That's right. And the truth is,
we had I'm
a
sorry, let me
family.
just throw this out here real
Okay.
quick. We had a guy on here the other night who I don't believe has an addiction problem.
No.
And his sister-in-law OD'd and died.
Mm.
He helps his brother deal with that.
Takes in his 3 kids.
Takes in the brother's 3 kids.
Wow.
A year later, the brother ODs and dies. And the brother had just gotten out of treatment. And
right.
So if a family can come to you, they can maybe become better prepared to deal with relapse,
right,
and to deal with the obstacles that come after treatment. Is that part
100%.
of the intervention plan?
100%. Yeah. Like I said, it's 80% focused on the people around the person struggling. That's the most time we spend. That's why the first day that we spend with the family, and the family day is, 6 to 8 to 10 hours, depending on how many people, and the intervention usually lasts an hour or 2.
right.
All right. So, addicts are really predictable, believe it or not. We've learned what we're going to say in these situations, what we're going to do in these situations. And we've learned how to overcome objections to treatment. We've learned how to help the families, create a healthy boundary, and learn how to help them keep that healthy boundary. And then pain is the motivator for change, guys. Right? I mean,
Right.
Most of us don't change until there's some pain involved. Even if we're in recovery, I still don't change unless there's some pain involved. And the family, they're just at their wits' end, and they're lost, and they feel hopeless. And this is bringing in somebody that's a professional to guide them through the entire thing and long afterwards, and help them enter into their own form of recovery. And I don't mean go into treatment. Like, when people say that, they're like, oh my God, you're going to make the whole family go to treatment? No, we're going to give them resources and support them and help them find a way to get peace regardless of what that person does. Because let's be honest, you talk about success. The reality is we can't control the addict. Right? We can't force them to do anything. The only control we have in our lives is our actions and our reactions. And if the family can learn how to react differently and in the right way moving forward, they stand a chance at helping that person get better long term. I mean, it increases their odds tenfold, but it also helps that family find peace no matter what happens.
Right. Awesome. I love it.
We spend our whole addiction trying to control, right? Trying to control and enjoy it, right? And the family spends all their time trying to control and manage the addict.
Right.
Can't do that either. Right.
Look,
But there's a ton of stuff out there for families. There's a ton of stuff that a lot of people don't even know about.
Right.
Let's try to get some of those resources out there. How can if somebody was listening to this, their cousin, their nephew, their son-in-law, whatever, might need an intervention, how could they reach ClearPath?
So we have a website, obviously, clearpathintervention.com. It has an 866 number and an 850 number if you're relatively local to Pensacola. We have a team, myself and my director of services, that most likely be one of the people that answers those phone calls. We have a Facebook page as well with some videos and stuff on it. We do, a little bit of social media stuff on TikTok as well. So all of those platforms have a way to get in touch with us. Most of the time, like I said, it's me or my director of services that actually answers the phone. So you're not calling some huge company that has 50 interventionists that all over the country. You're calling, there's a team of 5 of us, and we don't want to be any bigger than that. Right. Because we want to be able to give the personal touch to every single family we work with. And we want to treat those families just like it's our family. Just like if it was my mom.
Don't want your responsiveness lost in bureaucracy.
Yeah.
Right. Absolutely.
What are some resources out there that that you were referencing? If a family member wanted to learn more, where could they start?
About intervention or about just getting better as a family?
I mean, just better as a family, whatever. I mean,
so there's a book called It Takes a Family. Carver Brown and I are big on that book. What we tell families a lot of times is it was written by Deborah J. and Jeff J., who are the creators of Love First model of intervention, which is a great deal of what we use at ClearPath. But that book, if somebody grabs that book and reads the first 35 pages of it, and then pick up the phone and call us, they will understand why we're doing what we're doing and why it works. Right. And there's that, and there's also a place called the Heron Project, HERRON, heronproject.org, which is a full service family support group that's run by a licensed clinician. So it's not like some of your 12-step type stuff. There's actually a therapist in there, and it's free. Right. So they have support groups for people who have lost loved ones. They have support groups for people who are currently dealing with a loved one. I have sent so many people to that Heron Project meetings that they started referring clients back to me, and I've never met anybody or talked to anybody at the place.
So also, okay, so interventions are, when you compare the cost for an intervention to losing a family member, obviously it's always going to be worth it. But there are some folks that just aren't situated financially to be able to hire someone to come on, in the capacity that maybe somebody at ClearPath would come to you. So is there a service or something that maybe still retains the the help that you offer with maybe a little bit lower price point to be able to
absolutely
get tell us about that.
Absolutely. So first, interventions they can be very expensive. We are on the lower end of the scale as far as price point for interventions, and we will stay that way because we want as many people to be able to access our services as possible. But like you said, Danny, I mean, there's people out there that don't have anywhere near enough money to send somebody to treatment or to pay for an intervention. And so in that situation, a friend of mine named Sam Davis, who is another interventionist, has created a website called Intervention on Call. And there are about 10 or 12 of us that own our own companies and are interventionists on that website. And so the client can go to that website and select me or any other interventionist if they want. And then we set up a consultation. It's much less expensive. And our job at that point as interventionists is to give you everything we've got, whether it's a 1-hour consultation and that's all they can afford, or whether they decide, hey, we can afford three of them, and let's really try and get them prepared to conduct the best form of an intervention they can on their own. Nothing replaces that objective, emotionally grounded person that's not emotionally attached to walk through. But if it's not, we want to be able to do something,
Right.
rather than nothing. And so I've been on the platform for a few months now, and I've walked a couple families through, one of which was very successful, one of which they just never did it. They were too scared. And a lot of times that's what families, they're too scared to approach us in active addiction. And so they just continue to walk on eggshells around us. And it's just a really sad thing.
Yeah. Awesome. So, and that website again, one more time for the listener.
Interventiononcall.com
or
yes.com.
Okay. Interventiononcall.com. Listener, go check it out. At the very least, it's a good resource to have in your back pocket.
Amen.
Yeah.
Well,
I'm trying to think of, I think we did a more succinct job this go round than we did the last time.
yeah, it was kind of all over the place before.
We laid it out.
Yeah, absolutely. Well,
One thing we did talk
there's
about-
always, go ahead. Sorry.
No. Go ahead.
There's always the talk, the too crazy, the scary words for family members, tough love, right? It's another one of those situations where there's misconceptions around our active addiction with the general public, and people tend to implement tough love in the wrong way, right? They listen to the neighbor, and the neighbor says, well, I had a daughter like that. You just kick her out. So that's tough love the wrong way, right? Tough love the right way is setting a healthy boundary with a solution sitting right there in a wide open door for the person struggling with addiction. So no, you can't stay here anymore. But the second you're ready to help yourself, the entire family is behind you 1,000,000%. And this is your open door. Here's where we've got this place for you to go. So that's how you do it right. Tough love is not a punishment. It's not an attempt to manipulate somebody. And it's never to be, implemented in anger or revenge or spite or any of that stuff. It's the single most effective approach for long-term recovery of a family.
it's
because the
basically
family,
setting healthy boundaries, right?
Look,
So what if we change tough love? What if we change tough love to what it really means, right? Boundaries, consequences, and accountability. Would that make it easier to digest, right?
Yeah.
Right. And so families' biggest fear is their loved ones saying no to treatment. Right. That's when we do this process, that's their biggest fear. But what if this is what they're really saying? No, I'm not going to treatment. What if this translates to, I'm not changing anything, and you aren't either, family? Is the family okay with that?
Right.
No. It's not okay to light yourself on fire to keep them warm. Sometimes an intervention is about a family taking their lives back.
Right.
It's most of these moms and dads and spouses that are out there living with this stuff, their entire life has been upended. And addiction is systematically destroying their family.
Right.
And so this process that we provide is about stopping that. And it's not only about that, it's about, let's not sit around. And the other biggest misconception out there, in my opinion, about addiction is that people say you got to wait for them to hit bottom before they're ever going to get better. All right. You got to wait. So let's play that plan out. We're just going to sit around as family members, and we're going to wait for some horrible event to happen, whether it's a DUI or worse. And we're going to pray that when that event happens, suddenly our loved one sees things for what they are and decides to get better. How many bottoms did you guys have that didn't work?
A lot.
Yeah.
3,800.
Right. A bottom is a feeling.
Right.
It's not an event. Right. And the general public thinks it's an event. So a bottom is when, we all of a sudden realizes that the consequences of our life decisions have brought us to a point where doing something different to get better is a better option than continuing on the same path we've been on.
Right.
We all have that moment in recovery. Mine was in the 4th treatment center at 29 years old. All of a sudden I went, well, shit, you know, Brad, you've been fighting this thing since you were 14 years old. You're 29. Do you really want to fight it into your 30s? Because you haven't won at all so far. You know, and that was one of those insightful moments that I had in treatment. And the next one was, you know, I had at least 2 family members and many other people tell me that if I would follow this recovery plan that's out there, that my life would get better. And I thought to myself, who the hell am I to think they're all wrong? And I'm right.
Right.
I'm the one sitting in the 4th treatment center with nothing left to my name but a beat up Toyota 4Runner. You know, so it's a feeling. And we have to try and dispel all these misconceptions about addiction and recovery, which is obviously why you guys are doing what you're doing.
Right. Yeah.
There's a lot of stuff out there.
Right. That's why we talk talk with individuals like yourself, is because there's, you know, oftentimes our biggest enemy is misinformation or no information at all. You know, the addiction and alcoholism is something that oftentimes is kind of looked down upon. And not kind of, it is looked down upon. So, you know, the talking about something that's difficult oftentimes is something that's just easier not to do. And we've got that friend or we've got that family member that, yeah, we know that they, you know, they stay drunk all the time, and, you know, but, you know, they're not necessarily, you know, they're surviving, and it's easier just to not talk with them. It's not easier to just brush it off instead of, you know, actually dealing with it, because dealing with it takes work. And oftentimes people are either, you know, just completely, they just don't want to do it. So what we want to do here at Recovery Lab is, you know, soften that a little bit, make it to where, you know, it is okay to talk about, you know, a family member that may be struggling with somebody else. And it is okay to be vulnerable. It is okay to be, you know, to not have all the answers. So that's our goal here. And it's lovely to be able to talk with individuals that are, you know, very, very well trained and experienced in helping other people. Because, you know, for us, it was, you know, we Drew and I had our own, you know, shit that we dealt with. You know, I lived at Drew's house, and he was shooting up in the bathroom, and we were doing drugs together, and, you know, doing scandalous things. And, you know, it just, you know, we want to be able to help people get out of that, because I don't know about you, Drew, but looking back on that, that was not fun.
It was awful.
Yeah. It was awful. It was absolutely awful. So it's beautiful to that you're out there doing this, and that you're out there helping folks. And it's just a beautiful thing. We want to normalize recovery, man. We want to do everything we can to help.
Amen.
Yeah, and I'm proud of you guys for doing that. Anybody that's out there that is trying to help change the stigma is doing the right thing, in my opinion. You know, what we do throughout our family day with that workbook I showed you is help them understand addiction from an addict's perspective.
Right.
You know, a lot of families don't really understand that. You know, they everybody's got their own ideas of how to fix the problem, and everybody wants to help the person fix the problem. But everybody's usually trying to do it in their own way with their own ideas, and not a whole lot of real formal training behind it, like you said. So it sort of creates this disconnect within the family.
Right.
And, you know, people start fighting, people get resentments towards each other. The siblings are mad at mom and dad for continuing to enable, or mom's mad at dad because he's enabling and she's not, or vice versa, or whatever. It really destroys the family system. And if we can bring that back to, you know, the center, and help them understand, you know, you guys are a strong family, you know, and you're fully capable of moving forward and helping your person in the right way. You just need a little direction.
Right.
Just like we need direction in recovery, man. I mean, I didn't know how to do anything before I got in recovery.
Yeah, exactly.
I needed the direction of somebody who had been down that path. And so that's all this is taking a family down a path with direction that they didn't have before.
Let me, if you can, give me your observations on enabling in general?
Yeah, it's good.
What are things you have learned? Have you realized something that surprises you? Or what are the typical avenues of enabling? I mean, everybody knows money. I mean, if you're giving
Right.
little Johnny money, he's giving it to Pookie and Run Run, and they're getting, you know. But what are other ways that families enable, or generally things you've learned about enabling?
So everybody that's connected to a person struggling with addiction is enabling in some way, even if that's ignoring the problem. You know, that you got to look at the message that comes to the addict's mind. If I'm ignoring the problem in the addict screwed up, skewed mind that we have, because it's a disease of perception, that message comes to us: keep doing what you're doing. It's acceptable. Right. So if the brother's ignoring the problem, then the addict thinks that they can keep doing it. I mean, just we don't see things for what they are. Enabling is a funny thing. You know, one of the things we have in our book is that if an addict is happy with you, you're probably enabling. If they're mad at you, you're probably trying to save their life. You know,
it's kind of that way.
Yeah, and so what I always tell families is if we're worried about whether something we're doing is enabling, you know, we ask ourselves this question: did my loved one create this situation and its ensuing consequences? Right? If the answer is yes, how do I expect my loved one to grow and gain wisdom from facing consequences if I remove them?
Right.
Right. And so that and here's the thing: our society defines love as protection. Right. And that's, unfortunately for an addict, that's not good. You know, we're protecting and we're taking away natural consequences from people in their lives. And what that does is create this message in our head that what we're doing is acceptable. And if you combine that with the primary drive of drug addict and alcoholic, which is to create an environment with the least amount of discomfort and the most amount of comfort, and to seek pleasure, right? You combine those two things, you got a messed up situation.
Mm-hmm.
So enabling, you know, it's nobody's fault.
How much of what you do with the family revolves around cessation of avenues of enabling?
So we actually have an entire section on enabling that we go through on the family day. And the way it works is, and this is usually a very enlightening perspective, because most teams, you've got one individual on there that's like, yes, I'm the enabler. I know I am. This is my deal. And you've got the other person that's like hardcore punisher type, like, you know, get your crap together. You know, I don't know why you just can't.
Right.
Yeah, I know why you just can't stop. Right. And then you got siblings and friends on the outskirts that are enabling in different ways. And so we kind of identify those roles for one, like, are you the helper? Are you the punisher? Are you the martyr? All those things. But then on top of that, we have a list of 27 things. And so it says, check off anything that you've done in the past or in the current situation that you're in for your addict. And it's got all these things like bail them out of jail, taking over their responsibilities, you know, letting them live in your home, letting them use your car, all those things that we know are enabling. And when the family's done checking that thing off, you know, sometimes you've got team members that are a little bit far removed, so they don't check that many. But if you've got close family members, a lot of them will check, you know, 18 to 23 of the 27. Right. And so at the end of that page in the manual, they're like, oh shit.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I didn't realize all this stuff was enabling too. And so once we've identified our enabling behaviors, that's critical to changing. Right. So the next part we go through is, okay, now we've identified it. What are we willing to stop as a family? What are we willing to do differently as a family? Because we know if we keep doing what we've been doing, our loved one is going to continue to behave and react the same way they have been. So the only power we have in this situation is to change the way we react.
And stick to it.
Yeah. And families are like, it's crazy. You see their eyes get big and they're like, I just never saw it for what it was. So it's funny. I always talk about one of the biggest gifts of recovery is on a good day, I can see things for what they are. Now it's kind of morphed. Now with what we do, it's with the families. It's on a good day in recovery, I can see things for what they are, and I can teach somebody else to see things for what they are.
Right.
Because the family, it's not their fault. They're just drawn into this dysfunctional system around the person struggling.
I think a lot of what these people probably lack, like I have seen in my own life, how in my own recovery story, how there was a long period where I just, honest to God, didn't have any hope that things would ever get any better. And, you know, it's like you're stuck in Groundhog Day, but with addiction, and you just can't see waka, 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 a clear path out.
Right.
But I think it's interesting how you're able to help them, the family, get hope and realize that, yes, I can stop giving Drew money. And yes, he's going to say, why do you hate me? But he doesn't mean it. Right. You know, I think of some of the cruel things that I said to my parents in furtherance of getting more resources.
Right.
Be it a place to stay.
Toxic.
Yeah, absolutely toxic.
Me too.
I mean, sorry, Mama.
Yeah, me too. Sorry.
Me too. Sorry, Mom.
Yeah. And I think, what would I do if my child said that to me? And I would die inside. Yeah. I would. I mean, the misery visited upon those that love drug addicts is profound and abundant. And look, I think you do. Like, it really opened my eyes just listening to you talk about how the main things we're trying to help is the family,
right? Those
in orbit around the sick individual,
right?
Because they've got as much healing to do, albeit in different ways.
Well, there's numerous of them in one addict. Like, it's hard to address the family. Like, that's where the power is going to come in, is getting everybody, like you were talking about, on that unified front, you know?
This is the benefit of having somebody like you,
exactly,
with the experience to help navigate
and to recognize
those interpersonal relationships. Like you mentioned siblings a few times, and I thought, wow, I never thought about that. I guess if I had a sibling that didn't, I mean, my brother has, you know, his own struggles, and you know, we were both doing shady things,
right?
And, you know, if we had a straight and narrow sibling, you know, they'd probably resent the shit out of
mm-hmm.
Yeah, no doubt.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's in a good way, I think, to frame it up for people is, you know, even if you don't do an intervention, and your person just goes to treatment, right? What happens is the family takes a big, deep breath, maybe the first deep breath they've taken in a long time, and they go back to their lives in status quo, and they really don't learn anything. Some treatment centers have really robust family programs, but most of them do not. And so their person goes away. They stay for 30, 60, 90 days, whatever it is. And they come back out and they're doing better. They feel better. They look better. And a couple months down the road, they have a life event that is super stressful. It doesn't have to be like, you know, but let's say they get laid off from their job or something. And they're better in recovery now, but they haven't been clean and sober long enough to learn how to behaviorally react well to stressors in life. So they're usually going to react. They may not pick up drugs and alcohol, but they may act a fool about it. Mm-hmm. And so if the family hasn't learned anything while they're gone, the family then reacts the same way they've always reacted to that person. They freak out.
They resort to those old patterns.
Right. And then the cycle of addiction just starts. Whether that person picks up drugs and alcohol right then or not doesn't really matter. The cycle within the family system starts over, which all usually ends up ending in the person picking up drugs or alcohol. Mm-hmm. And so that's why we created a 6-week family course for people that don't even do an intervention. They just happen to be able to get their loved one to treatment. So we do that as well. So we go over all the things that we teach them, you know, in an intervention setting without doing the intervention. Because we feel, you know, I didn't realize that, you know, a couple of years ago, I mean, I get calls all the time of people that don't need an intervention. They're just trying to find the right place to go to treatment. And we love doing that. We call it treatment navigation. And then I realized a couple of years ago that I was just doing those and sending those people to the right place. And then I would move on to the next case and the next intervention. And those families that were calling me, they weren't getting anything. They were getting a place to go to their loved one treatment, but they weren't getting any of the things that we teach families.
Right.
So we created that course, to help people as well. And it's just an online 1 hour a week Zoom course that we do for family members.
Really?
What are some of the what is the metric for you determining where a good fit is when you're doing treatment navigation?
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's a loaded question, right? Because it really depends on the client. It really depends on, we do an assessment similar to what a therapist would do if you walked into their office and said, hey, I need, like if the DUI people made you go to get some kind of assessment done, we do an assessment similar to that. And by learning as much as we possibly can, ours is probably deeper than most. We then determine based on, history, with drugs and alcohol, history with mental health, history with suicide, possibly history with, trauma, abuse. All those things play into what makes the most sense for each client. And so when we do an intervention, part of our job is to provide them with 3 options. And we provide them with 3 options based on what their resources are, right? Because a lot of people don't have, some of these facilities are super expensive and some people can access and some people can't. So we have facilities that are $800. We have facilities that are $2,500. We have facilities that go all the way up to crazy money, right? But our job is to find the best spot with our resources and our network of the people that we work with and trust to find that spot for your loved one. Right. Because if you get on Google and try and find treatment, it's a rabbit hole that you don't want to go down.
I mean, thousands.
Malibu.
Yeah.
Here we go.
I mean,
there's 20. I learned this yesterday from Sam. There's 29,800 treatment centers in the United States.
Good God.
Well, listen, if you ever need to get anybody in a free faith-based place, I've got
you told me that. Yeah. That's
There's
great.
a place in Lucedale where I went. I'm still friends with the people down there. I try to navigate people there as often as I can. I mean,
I can tell you, I will, if you trust them, I will call you on those, because I don't really work with facilities unless I know somebody personally there that I trust, or that I know somebody that they know, like you guys, that firmly believes in what they do and trusts that they're going to do what's best for the patient. I treat every family.
There's faith-based places have a different approach.
Sure.
And it was good for me, I think, because I mean, it was just, it met me at the right time in my life. Desperation drove me and I needed somewhere to go, and it was free, and they love on you and, help you try to become reintroduced into society. They just have a different spiel about it.
Sure.
There's
lots of different paths to recovery.
No doubt. But yeah, I mean, we treat every family we work with as if it was one of our own family members we were trying to place in treatment. There's a lot of places out there that you do not want to send somebody. And a lot of those, especially Google related, treatment centers have got marketing firms that are paid extremely large amounts of money to make that place look awesome. And I'm not saying that they necessarily put pictures that aren't real on there or anything like that, but they make it look different than it is. And they tout it in a way that they can treat almost anything. Like, we can treat gambling, we can treat eating disorders, we can treat addiction. It's bullshit.
Right.
Most facilities, there's only a few facilities in the country that can truly treat an eating disorder at the same time as an addiction.
Right.
That's a whole different thing. And so when we get those calls, we have to help educate families. Like, listen, I know it says that on that website, but I'm telling you, this is a place that's billing your insurance, and they're not going to give your loved one what they need. They're just not.
Well, the first time I ever had anything to do with anybody with an eating disorder was when I went to Bridge to Recovery, and we had, a group, and there were some ladies in there that were being treated for having an eating disorder. And I thought, man, how hard must that be?
Yeah.
Because, it's not like I go to treatment and Carver or Denise or whoever is going to teach me how to safely do meth 3 times a day.
Right.
Right.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Those people,
Substances
gotta-
are very black and
you
white.
have to eat.
Right. Right.
Right.
And the
That's-
same is
Yeah,
true.
and
with
I don't
sex addiction.
know enough about. I thankfully have found a few people that are in that part of the recovery world in the eating disorder, and I lean on them 100%, and I put families in touch with them because these people they're as well versed in the eating disorder world as we are in the intervention world,
Sure.
and so we're not afraid to reach out. I don't think I know everything. I mean, I'll be honest with you guys. Everything you've heard me say today, I learned from somebody else.
Sure.
I didn't create this stuff.
Well,
I
we
just
all
took
stand
it
on the
and-
shoulders of giants. I mean, that's
Yeah.
how that's,
Right.
You put your own spin on it. You learn what works best for you and how you're most effective with individuals, and you run with that, and so yeah, absolutely, yeah, you did have help from learning from other people, but you then turn into an individual who's unbelievably capable of doing something that you're passionate about to the best of your ability in your way. You can build upon what you've learned, and then the next person down the line will be able to look at you and be acutely aware of how you do things and improve on that for them. It's
Right.
I love it.
Yeah, and it took me some time. We talked about pain's the motivator for change. Took me a lot of time to find the people that I have working for ClearPath now, because it was really hard for me to find people that I knew would put as much passion and effort into each family as I did.
Sure.
I had to be able to trust that.
Right.
Right. And that's a hard thing to find, because, people call me every week. Hey, man, I want to do interventions. What do I do? Right. It's you got to have this certain personality for it. You got to be able to sit down with this family and feel with them what's going on with them and help them understand in a way that they really can walk away from it grasping a different viewpoint on the solution.
Right. And
And the
I
problem.
imagine, sorry, it's very easy for someone to call you up and say, hey, I want to do interventions, and then them portray passion and being passionate about helping folks. But then like a little bit down the line, they just they start phoning it in. And so it's important that you have this training to be able to recognize, you are very good at what you do. And it's important that you are educated enough within your field to be able to recognize the guy that's going to just phone it in a couple weeks or, in a month or so, and the guy that actually is genuinely passionate about helping folks. So again, it's, somebody who is unbelievably passionate and professional about what you do. It takes someone like that to be able to, attract 5 folks that you trust, that you trust with your life, basically, to be able to sit down with this family and not lead them astray. Am I
Well,
right?
you guys know we don't like giving up control, right?
Sure.
And that's what I had to do. We got so busy that I had to reach out for help, and there was pain involved, so I was ready to change, and then I had to find these people, and that meant me giving up control. And God, that was not easy, because I wanted to be the one that dealt with every family from the first call all the way to the end, and I still do a whole lot of it. And I still do interventions all the time. It's not like I'm, sort of in an administrative position at all, because I'm still on the front lines all the time. But we just got busy enough to where I couldn't do them all by myself.
Right.
And so we had to find some help.
So it begs the question. We've talked about a lot of heavy stuff today, a lot of heavy things, right? And it has to be, yes, I know that you're passionate about it and you love it and you love helping people, but it has to take a toll on you yourself. How do you decompress at the end of the day and leave work at work and home at home? What do you do to keep yourself healthy?
Wow, it's a great question. When I decided to move into this field in recovery in general, I sat down with 3 people you guys all know: Brian O'Shea,
Oh yeah.
Todd Thompson,
Oh yeah.
and Carver Brown. And
Three winners.
unsolicited, all 3 of them told me the same thing. Brad, you're going to be incredible at this. We know you are, no matter what aspect of it you do. Please make sure you promise me one thing: you'll separate your own recovery from what you do. Right. And I don't know that I would have understood and internalized that if it hadn't come from 3 people that didn't know all 3 of them were saying.
Right.
Right. And so my first thing is to make sure I'm taking care of my own recovery. Right. That's just, otherwise it gets really muddy in this field. And the second thing is self-care. You know, I learned the hard way years ago what happens when you stop taking care of yourself. So fishing, riding horses, live music, those are in my family. Obviously, spending time with them is that's what I do. If I can get out on the water when I get a little time off by myself and fish, or even with some friends, it resets my soul.
Sure.
If I can go see some live music, resets my soul. It's just food for it, right? And obviously the horses, we don't get to ride as much as we used to, but that's one of the biggest things ever in my life that's brought peace. And to learn how to be fully present in life, it's a really tough thing. You get on the back of a horse, you're fully present. You're not paying attention to anything else, right?
Yeah.
And so everybody's got their own way of doing that stuff. I always tell people that I work with, you know, and especially family members, I'm going to guide you to a bunch of resources, but I also want you to go get a freaking massage next week. You know what I mean? Take some time for yourself.
Right.
You've been trying to manage and control this thing all these years, and it's taken an extremely huge toll on every aspect of your life, your finances, your attitude, your career, your health, your spirituality, your thoughts, your emotions. All those things have been affected. So let's kind of reset. Let's get back to center and start working on you, because that's all we have control over.
Absolutely. All right. So we're about 4 minutes from the top of the hour. What I'd like to do, if you will humor us, is you are about to get a phone call from someone who is desperate. They don't know where to turn. They don't know what to do. They've given up hope. In 3 minutes, give us what you would tell that individual to give them hope that there is a possibility that things will change, and not only change, but get better.
Wow, that's a tall order, because I don't have time to find out what's going on with the person.
Sure.
Right. I would say that
Is
I'm
the
sorry.
person the drug addict?
No, the person is a family member.
This is the family, yeah. So the first thing I would tell them is I'm super sorry for what they're going through, because it's all consuming. It's really tough. And I've been through it with a loved one myself, and I found out exactly how all consuming and tough it is. And I ruined trying to fix it on my own. And now I do something different to try and help people so they don't screw it up. Right. Let's do this thing one time. Let's do it right. And let's hopefully get your loved one in a better place. And no doubt we're going to get you in a better place no matter what, if you're willing to listen and learn. And so keep an open mind. Let's create a unified front. Let's talk to the people that are surrounding your loved one. And I don't care if they're mad or not. I don't care if they're done with this person or not. Let's get them on the phone. Let's get them on a Zoom call, and let's just talk about what's going on. And let's see if between all of us, we can come to a point where we're willing to give it one more shot. We're willing to sit down with this person with love and respect, and let me guide you guys through writing a letter that shows that love and respect. And then let me talk to this guy or this girl. Let me approach them from a recovery standpoint. Let me help them understand that there's hope for them. Because if it weren't for the people who helped me, I wouldn't be alive today. There's just no way that I would be here. And so if you'll let me guide you, if you'll let my team guide you, we can walk you through a process that you will find peace if you're willing to listen and learn. And you're also going to give your loved one the best chance ever at getting better and staying better for the long run. That's about it.
Pretty doggone good, my friend.
It is pretty doggone good.
Pretty doggone good. All right, Drew, do you have anything else that you'd like to bring up, talk about?
No, thank you.
Awesome.
Thank you for doing this twice.
Yeah.
Thank you for the work that you do.
You're a trooper, man. Thank you.
I'm glad to help, man. You know, anything we can do to get it out there, right? There's a lot of good help out there. We just got to be willing to ask for it. Just like we had to be willing to finally surrender to our own addiction and be willing to let people guide us. It's the same thing.
Right.
It's just from a whole family perspective.
Yep. I love it, man. You're the best. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Individual, listener, Clear Path Interventions. You can find Brad. You can find him on the.
We're friends on Facebook.
The Facebook, yeah. You can tap into us, and we'll direct you there or whatever. Reach out to us. We'll get you in contact with Brad. Whatever you need, we're here to help. So, Brad, thank you so much. Thank you for your time. We're going to let you go.
Thank you, guys.
been a pleasure. Thank you, brother.
Hang in there. Talk to you soon. I'll order. Send me a link. Text me a link so I can order some sweatshirts.
You got it. Thanks, brother.
Absolutely.
Take it easy. All right. Bye-bye.
So good.
All right.
That's crazy.